Good morning, everybody. For today's episode of Coffee with Bobbi, we've got Adam Parr joining us today. It's going to be amazing, fun-filled, full of motivation and mindset. So, good afternoon, Adam. You are joining us from the UK, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Good afternoon from my side and good morning on your side. And it's a pleasure to be, on your show.
Yes, wonderful. So, for you, those of you who do not know, Adam Parr is a certified life coach and host of the Persitivity podcast.
Yes, it's a tongue
Your,
twister.
yeah, it's your last name plus positivity, which focuses on personal development, positivity, and motivation with the intention of having a positive impact. You've had numerous guests on, and you recently started this podcast, correct?
Yeah, I started it back in January, this year, but it's kind of really kind of taken off. I'd say, during COVID.
That's
I
that's
yeah,
wonderful.
I didn't really take it too serious when I did it. I do it on my phone from my car mostly. I
Hmm.
do it from my room sometimes. But when I did it, I just kind of thought, I wanted to do it for 2 years, but I was always kind of worried what other people are going to think about it, and all that kind of stuff. And then I just took the leap into it, and did about 80 or 70 episodes during lockdown. And yeah, I've almost done about 150 now,
That's
140 something.
incredible.
So yeah, so.
So you've hit the ground running on this. Um, Tell us a little bit more, like, what was your focus getting into the podcast world? Was it just something that you wanted to do? You've seen other people do it, or you wanted to connect with more people?
Yeah, I've always kind of been interested in people. I'm interested in people. I like connecting with people, and I listen to a lot of Gary Vee. I watch a lot of his content, and I like a lot of Joe Rogan as well. And I've
Hmm.
always kind of been into podcasting, and I was like, why not? Why can't I do this if they're doing it? I'm interested in people, and I thought to myself, why not do a podcast around like positivity, motivation, mental health, kind of connecting with people, seeing why they do what they do, and it kind of went from there really. And like I said, I'm qualified in coaching,
Hmm.
so I've got that general interest in people and wanting to help. And I thought, why not kind of have something where I engage with people, and the audience can take something from it.
That's amazing. And it's so timely as well. You're focusing on motivation and mental health, and you started this right before the lockdowns happened. And you didn't, like, none of us really knew what was coming. And
Yeah.
then it dives right into the mental health aspects that is so important, especially like when we were at the height of lockdowns, even
Mm.
until right now.
Oh, sorry, I'm fine.
That's
Um,
okay.
yeah, yeah, no, that's it. I mean, I think it was a key time where everyone's kind of experiencing their own kind of difficulty with mental health and their own kind of challenge with what was going on.
Right.
And I just networked to a lot of people, and had a lot of people on my show from people in the corporate world and business, coaches, ex-military, everyday people. And it's interesting as well because you kind of understand that everyone's got their own story to share. Everyone's kind of got their own story to put out there.
And I 100% agree with you on that. Like, we all have a story, no matter if
Mm.
we're super famous or have hundreds of thousands of followers, or if we just have
Yeah.
5 followers, or you're not even on social media. Like, everybody has a story to share. And like you, I started this, it's been a little bit later down the road, but
Yeah.
I just miss the coffee shop scene and meeting random
Yeah.
people. And, this was my way of having that connection again that was all
Mm.
missed. So
Yeah.
that's incredible what you're doing with the podcast. Do you foresee it? Are you still doing like 1 or 2 episodes a week? What is it looking like?
I tend to do, I try. I mean, during lockdown, I was doing sometimes 4 to 5 a day. I mean, I think the most I did in one day was five. Um, I just schedule out my week and I do,
Right.
3 to 4, 5, 3 to 4 a day, 5 days a week. Now I try and do as many as I can during the week. Sometimes I'll do 3, sometimes I'll do 2 a day, 1 a day, but I try and keep it consistent, to 4 to 5 days a week if possible. So it kind of varies week to week.
That's amazing. Like you are in it, you're hitting the ground running and
Yeah.
following exactly like we connected from Gary Vaynerchuk and I think D-Rock's post too.
Mm,
But like just that mentality of you got to go all in. And if you
mm,
want to try something, like why not do it? Like we've got
yeah.
all the time in the world right now, and now is
Mm.
the time. So tell us a little bit about life coaching and what is some of the things that you're interested in doing with life coaching, and is it more on the motivation mindset side of it?
Yeah, no, exactly. I kind of fell into coaching, through trying different things out. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I tried different jobs, different career routes, and I kind of fell into coaching. And, I kind of want to, give something back, provide something where I can help other people. And I kind of focus on, I'm quite goal orientated. I'm kind of one of these
Mm-hmm.
people who are like, this is where you are. This is, where you need, how do you want to get to where you want to be?
Right.
But I'm pretty open, in working in different areas, from like fitness, mindset, goal setting, anxiety, depression, these
Mm-hmm.
kind of things. Because I had my own kind of experiences with anxiety and PTSD when I was like 13 or 14. I had this
Okay.
accident. So I kind of know how it kind of is, to be having something going on. Um, but I'm pretty open, to kind of work with people from, many different areas.
And I feel like that's key right now, like having that experience that
Mm.
you had in the past to help you. And now you're focusing, like, you've, I don't know if you've recovered 100% from it,
Oh yeah,
or yeah.
yeah. I
So,
don't. Yeah.
okay. So recovering, and then now you see people who are still suffering with it, and you're like,
Mm.
you have empathy and you want to help them in any way possible. So that's incredible what you are doing. Are you doing a lot of life coaching? I know with coronavirus and the pandemic, everything's switching to online. Are you starting to
Mm.
do that as well with life coaching, or are you still focused more on like where you're at currently in the UK?
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing that on the side. Networking with people and put myself out there to see people, do need coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a few clients I've been working with, and then alongside that, I've been looking for work. Like kind of day job kind of work and things like that.
Right.
Whereas right now, I don't want to really, I kind of more focus on being happy, I'd rather do something where I'm kind of having a positive impact or something that I'm happy doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of doing what I'm doing on my podcast, doing what I'm doing with my website, my coaching, whilst kind of, trying to seek other things on the side as well. That kind of within my values.
Right. And that is so key that you're talking about like how you can help others. And I don't know
Mm,
if you've read any or watched any of Gabby Bernstein's work, but she is huge on like mindset and motivation. And one
mm,
of the things that she said on her webinar this past week was
mm,
like you find your purpose when you can keep asking like how can I help you? How can I
yeah.
serve others today? And your
Mm,
purpose like automatically comes in naturally. So
yeah.
that's amazing what you're doing. Like in you're in it right now. Your purpose is shining.
Mm.
What's been some of your biggest takeaways from some coaching lately, or motivation or mindset shifts that you've seen within people, or steps that
Yeah.
we all need to take?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think I've seen a lot, through some of the people I've connected with, through networking, and having people on my podcast. I've connected with some really great people and, developed some really good relationships with some people, across the world. And I'm super humble for that. And, to connect with these people and, to see what they're doing on their journey. And some people I've had on my podcast, and they've gone to do their own podcast, and then you
Mm-hmm.
see them building connections and growing, and me making connections and then saying to them, oh, I've got this connection who would be good on your show. And then, seeing all these different connections open up and these people progressing, as well as, coaching and seeing people progress in that field as well. It's pretty rewarding. And I think it's all about, connecting with people, growing, and kind of like, doing things like this, that we're doing right
Right.
now, and, kind of pushing out your comfort zone and doing the things that, kind of scare us, or make us uncomfortable. Because I think the more you do that, the better you get it.
Oh, hands down. And you recently said it at the beginning, like you were a little bit scared to take the leap for the podcast at
Mm,
the beginning of things. And for myself as well, like this was a huge transition. Like I've
mm,
been on the road as an event marketing manager for
yeah.
years, and like always had this idea of like, oh, inspirational content, and it was like secondary because I was doing everything else under the sun. And then
Mm,
once the pandemic hit, it was like, okay, well, like I've got all the time in the world. Like
yeah.
why not start stuff? Um,
Yeah.
and here we both are. And those fears that we once have, like you look back and you're like, wow, I'm doing this every day now. Like whether
Mm,
it's talking to new strangers or putting the podcast out there. For me, it was changing the style of content.
yeah.
And, like going from inspirational, like quotes style
Mm,
underneath pretty photos or where I'm traveling to now, like actually speaking it. And
yeah.
like you look back and you're like, oh, like I'm doing this 5 times a day. Like that fear that we had was so secondary. But once you
Mm,
cross it, it's like, okay.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a really good point. I think like when you're doing it, when you start out doing it as well, it's kind of like, you're not really in that habit of doing it. You kind of, it's a bit like, Bambi on ice, so to speak, it's
Mm-hmm.
very, you know, because I think sometimes we can put things on social media and we instantly worry about what are people going to think about it. We're constantly thinking about what other people are going to think about with what we're doing. And so we're quite hesitant sometimes to post stuff because we're worried about what people are how they're going to judge it. But
Exactly.
once you kind of cross that kind of line, you kind of don't really think about it so much. And once you start being yourself and you're being genuine, and you're not focusing on trying to be like other people, because I mean, like Grant Cardone and these other people,
Mm-hmm.
they're already doing that thing. So I think you've got to focus on being yourself and just putting out content that resonates with you. I think that's one of the key things as well, and not just putting content for the sake of content. You know what I mean? And
Exactly. And that is so key. Like you have to be your authentic self. And I think that is what scares people as well, because then your mind goes to shift to like, what is the judgment? Like, what are my friends going to think of me? What are my family? What is all of this down the line? And once
mm,
you realize, like those judgments are what's stopping you from progressing, then you learn how to handle them and put that to the side.
yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think as well, like sometimes in the process of doing this and the whole kind of like coaching and networking, you're going to get like a lot of rejections, along the way. You're going to get people say no. You might not get people might not respond. And I think as well through that, it kind of you kind of develop like a thick skin to it. You kind of have to go through that,
Ex-
and it's kind of worth it in the end because you can look back and see how you've grown. Do you know what I mean? And like probably from when you started this and to where you are now
right.
as well.
I mean, hands down, and with the benefit of social media and us posting this content out there, it's like, oh, you can look back months and years down the road and be like, oh, this is what I posted at first. And,
Yeah.
you might look back and be like, that was so bad.
Mm.
Because like I've done it before when I was doing photography. I was like, how in the world did I even get this meeting? But then you're like, look how far I've grown over the time.
Mm.
And everybody has to take these building blocks and the steps. And the more that we step out of our comfort zone, the more that we can achieve in life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that's the inspiring thing, through what people can do is that you might do something, put something out there, and that inspires someone else to do it. And I think that's one of the amazing things with doing things like this, because you can have a conversation with someone. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know who's going to listen to it. You don't know what's going on in their day, and that might make them change their mind. It might inspire them to do something. I think that's the kind of beauty of it as well.
100%. And I know Gary Vaynerchuk said that a bajillion times, like, you never know what piece of content is going to resonate, how it's going to
Yeah.
resonate with others. And I don't know if you've seen it, but Dogface 208, who was doing like the skateboarding with the
I'm not seeing it.
cran raspberry juice. I mean, he got like 25 million views on it on TikTok. Like, just
Yeah.
one little video. And he was doing the same thing, like both of us are doing, is just putting out content until something resonates and pops.
Yeah.
So, and that's key. Like, you don't know who is listening, you don't know who's on the other side.
Mm.
And something that we say today can really change somebody's life.
Yeah. No, no, completely. And it's like documentating, it's like kind of evidence, isn't it? You can document, posting, videos or images and things like that. And you kind of see, how you've tweaked it and grown. And yeah, it's really key, like we could do a video and it could circulate and it could just take that one person to share it and it just
Mm-hmm.
goes from there. Um, and I think, a lot of people have, there's a lot of people got into social media a lot more, I think, during lockdown, during COVID, because it's kind of like, what else is there to do? You know,
Exactly. I mean, social media took off. Video games here in the States were like unheard of to find. They were going
mm,
for like 2 to 3 times the price of what they retail for because nobody could stock them on the shelves. And that's the thing, like, we're all in this space of wanting to connect with people, but
mm,
not really knowing how. And
mm,
you figured it out. I
mm.
figured it out. And bringing this aspect of life to everybody is so key.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think, like, I mean, for me, I use LinkedIn quite a lot
Mm-hmm.
during lockdown. I mean, I still use it, but, networking with people, just reaching out. And I used to, look at people's profiles and I'd be like, oh, I should message them and reach out. But then I would not do it because I'd be afraid of what they're going to say, or if they're even going to say anything at all. Um, and then I just kind of plunged myself into it. Reached out to different people, corporate people, business people, um, and got a few responses. And I think genuinely, if people are genuine, they just want to help out. It's kind of how the world works, how the universe works.
Mm-hmm.
I help you. Someone's going to return that to you. That's the way I like to think, and that's the way I like to see it.
And especially on this aspect of reaching out to people, what I've learned over the years is the answer is always going to be no unless you ask. So, like, what's the worst that somebody's going to tell you?
Yeah.
No. Like, so you might as well ask. And if they don't say yes, you're like, okay, well, I'll just move on to the next person. And if they
Mm,
do say yes, you're like, okay, great, that's amazing. Like, it would
yeah.
definitely have been a no if I didn't even ask you. And that's helped tremendously over the years with
Mm,
business and just networking in general. What's
yeah.
been one of the biggest blessings for you during this season?
Oh, that's a good question. I I think it's kind of like finding my tribe of people, if that makes sense,
Yep.
and having that support and that encouragement from people that just want to help you and want to see you grow, and you're helping them grow. Because I mean, like I said, I've made a lot of good connections, and growing up when I was at school, I used to kind of like think to myself, I don't feel like certain people, and
Mm-hmm.
can't, just trying to find that kind of, your kind of tribe of people. And I feel like, through this time of networking, podcasting, I've really kind of, found my tribe of people, met some really you know, I say probably lifelong friends. And, you know, it's been really a blessing. And I think is, as well, you know, learning about the process. I like to hit the ground running as a person. I like to, you know, be confident and just dive into stuff. And it doesn't always work like that. And I think that's been a process and a learning process, you know, this whole kind of 6-7 months, you know, learning about podcasting and all of that as well.
That's amazing. And I feel, I don't know if the sentiment's the same in the UK right now, but here
Yeah.
in the States, like, it's been super negative. People looking back, they're like, I wish 2020 would just end. I'm ready for 2021. I'm ready
Mm.
for a new start. But there's a subset group that's seeing like all of the positive things that have happened. Like, you've
Yeah.
seen the blessings, I've seen the blessings. Like, I'm able to do something new that I love. I'm
Mm.
able to connect with people. And
Mm.
just some of the small things, like even with family, they're like, oh, well, you've left your normal job. Like,
Yeah.
that industry doesn't exist right now in event space. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, but you guys don't see the other side of it. Like, this is the first time in 7 years that I've stayed in one city for 5 months,
Yeah.
which boggles like everyday people's minds. But like, I'm used to the suitcase moving 2 to 3 cities a week
Oh,
and
wow.
being gone for months. Like, you're never home, and you just pop in to see family and then you hit the road again.
Mm.
And so that's been like one of the greatest blessings for me. It's just having
Mm.
that time to spend with family, like going into something new and seeing like those small joys come up.
Mm. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think, you know, like to me, that time with your family as well is really important. I think that's one of the things that I notice as well. You know, have more time with your family and things like that. And I think, like you said as well, like you kind of, you know, like you said, you're in that city now for, you know, past 5 months, and you usually move around. Um, you know, like that kind of shows, you know, that you know, probably found something that you're happy doing, and I think that's important, isn't it? You know, to do, because I think a lot of people, I understand people got to work and things like that, but if you can find something that you are happy doing instead of just doing a job, you know, or do a job and then find something that you enjoy alongside of it. Do you know what I mean? And then
Right.
you're kind of doing that on the side alongside what you're doing. And I think a lot of people found that during COVID, and I think a lot of people created new businesses, and a lot of people left their jobs because they had a really deep think about what they're doing.
And that's what it's given us. It is so much time, time to think, time to act, time to change. And you're doing it. Like I said, I'm doing it. And I just encourage people, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, I don't know if I should do this, like
Mm.
wishing 2020 away, like
Yeah.
take today, look at it and say, you know, like, where is my joy at? How can I
Mm.
get that back in life? And
Mm.
there's so many ways to do that. But
Yeah.
I heard the other day, it was on Gabby's webinar. She was saying, you know, like, our joy is contagious. A lot of
Mm.
people I've seen, like, are minimizing their joy in life and sharing it because they know others have it so much worse.
Yeah.
And, and they're like, well, we don't want to celebrate, but that joy is contagious. So the more that we keep celebrating and the more we keep
Mm.
sharing, it keeps on going.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think like through you doing, you know, what makes you happy and enjoying it, people are going to, you know, think about, you know, if some other people aren't too happy in what they're doing, it'll probably make them think about, you know, what's making me happy, you know, and it's that kind of, it's quite contagious, you know. I think, like you said, when you know, you see someone who's happy in doing what they're doing, it kind of makes you think, you know what? I think there's two sides to it. People can sometimes, you know, think, oh, you know, I haven't found what makes me happy. You know, I'm not going to find it. But I think it's like that kind of narrative, isn't it? You know, in your mind,
Right.
and tuning into the way that you respond to things. Because like you said, with that 2020 thing, a lot of people can become victims and think to themselves, oh, you know, things aren't going right for me. I can't wait for next year to come around. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, you're in full control of your life and what you decide to do, and that's the way you decide to act and think.
Mm-hmm.
You have to just kind of flip your perspective in some way. I think that takes quite a bit of practice to be able to get to that place and do that. But I think it's really important to do.
Okay, so let's do this. I 100% agree with you. So if you're in that space right now where you know that you should change, but then you're going through all this fear in your mind, what would you tell somebody?
That's a good question. I would say just go into it. Just do it. Go through the motions, because you know going through the motions and pushing through that fear, you grow. I mean, whereas if you don't do that, you don't know until you kind of jump into that pool, so to speak. And it's
Mm-hmm.
better to just do that than have that regret of not doing it. That is far worse than not doing it. I mean, I know it's difficult and it can be hard if something is scary, but you don't know until you plunge into it and come out the other side.
And you have the ability to try it.
Mm,
And that's something that I've also been speaking on is like you can either act on it right now or you can silence it. But later in life, like I've had the opportunity to spend with close family during end of life care and also in like rehab centers and things like that, where
mm,
you're around elderly and who are living in a nursing home. And there's
yeah.
anytime you talk to people there, they're
Mm,
like, what are you doing? What do you want to do? And then whatever you say, the response is always, go for it.
mm,
Just go for it. Like you could be like, well, I don't know about this. Like, how do I
yeah.
have the money? Any excuse that you have in your mind. And they're like, no, 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 go for it. Because you never know what the regret that you would
Yeah.
have like later in life looking back going like what if I actually took the time when I had it to try it, like how would
Yeah.
my life be different, how
Mm,
is this, but if you actually try it and whether or not you succeed at it or fail, like you
yeah.
for a fact know that you have tried it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's really key. And I think, like, people who are at that stage of their lives, or they're in that situation, they kind of know, because they've kind of not taken those risks, or they've not,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I mean? They've not done those things. So they kind of come from that place where they're an example of it. Um, I think it's so important. I think it's so important to do, just take that leap and to try things. Because I think we've got infinite, in as human beings, we've got infinite potential, and I think we're far more powerful than we believe ourselves to be. And you look at people, what they've, if someone else has done something, there's no reason to say that you can't do it. I mean, some
Yep.
people, are quite accepted. Like Elon Musk, he's a different breed of human being. There's only a few people like that.
Right.
But if you want something bad enough, you'll make it happen. It's I think it takes a lot of discipline. Your mindset. I think mindset is a key thing. Um, and it scares me to think, what if I hadn't have done my podcast? Because I wouldn't have made the connections I made. And we wouldn't be having this conversation.
It would just be in
And
a box still, like it would, you
yeah.
just have stifled it away and I'm like, yeah, it's just an idea out here, like I
Mm,
could never do that, it's only
mm,
for somebody else doing that, it's not for
yeah.
me. I mean, that's the narrative that's being told
Yeah.
in people's minds.
Yeah. No, you have to. I think we just have to, like, we. The way I thought the other day was, if something was easy, everybody would be doing it. And I kind of think to myself, like, if something's uncomfortable, if something is difficult, it's happening for a reason. This is
Mm-hmm.
difficult for a reason. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're working out, it's difficult for a reason. If, you're trying to apply for something, or, You know what I mean? You're coming up against certain obstacles. It's for a reason, you know? It's going to like propel you to that next level. If you push through that, you get that resilience. And it's like people, you know, might say, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. I remember when I first started working in restaurants at 16, I wasn't confident talking to people,
Yep.
you know? So I think we've all kind of been there. But the more you do it, the better you get it, you know?
And it just comes with time. It comes with pushing ourselves. I know Untold Story Told just wrote, like,
Mm.
can't imagine life without it. And it's so
Yes.
true. Like, we have all of these instances. We got to keep pushing forward. We got to
Mm.
keep going because, and in essence, that's what gets us out of that comfort zone. And like you said, levels us
Mm.
up to the next level that we're supposed to be at. And
Yeah.
timing is key. And I want to say this, like, everything happens at the right time for a reason.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so even if we look back and we're like, well, I wonder why I never started this podcast years ago, or I never knew why I didn't go here then, or why am I right here at this time?
Yeah.
And there's a reason, even if you don't fully understand it yet, but
Mm.
normally it'll like circle back around and you'll see it later and you'll be like, oh, that's
Mm.
why I had to wait. Like maybe
Yeah.
there's somebody listening on here or will be listening during this podcast and they'll send you a message and be like, Adam, like if it wasn't for your podcast, like I wouldn't be here today. Or
Mm.
different things like that. And those messages will like validate why you had to wait a little bit longer for it.
Yeah. No, I think that's really, no, I really resonate with that. And I think you're right. And I think everything does happen at that right time. We can't kind of rush things to happen. And whatever is happening, you know, at that right time and for that right reason as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, yeah, and Told Story, she's a good friend of mine, Sally. I've had her on my podcast. She's a really great person. She's got her own podcast as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Untold Story Told. Lisa Rowe, that's my mum. Hello. Um, but no, I agree with you, and I think in society, I think everything's running at such a fast pace, and I think when COVID happened, it kind of slowed down a bit. It kind of needed to slow down,
Mm-hmm.
and we kind of, I think, we 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 kind of want things now, you know, as well. That comes with, you know, instant gratification, you know, social media, that side of things, and you know, I think the thing as well, what I've had to learn is that things take time. It doesn't happen overnight. But it's kind of like trying to fall in love with that process, you know, if you know what I mean, and rather than
Yeah.
kind of seeking just the end goals. It's all those kind of little bits in between.
And finding those joys in the little bits in between, trusting the process is so key. Like nobody has all the answers starting out. I didn't
Mm.
have the answers. You didn't have the answers. Elon Musk didn't have all of the answers starting out.
Mm.
And once we lean into that, then it makes it more, I guess, comfortable in a way for people to be like, okay, well, at least I'll try it and I'll
Mm.
see what happens.
Yeah.
So, Adam, as we start to wrap up here, like,
Yeah, of
what
course.
has been one of your like best podcasts that you've been listening to during this time, or books, or motivation for yourself that's really impacted you lately?
That's a really good question. I I listen to. I mean, I think as well, Gary Vee helped me, you know, to kind of just take the action. Um, a lot of the people I connected with, you know, through my podcast inspired me, and you know that consistency and that kind of like that repetition, that consistency. I did a podcast with a guy called Don Sick.
Mm-hmm.
He he founded a math website called mathcelebrity.com,
Okay.
and he's got like 8 million visitors this year. And he talked about, you know, the compound effect and how it really made me think, really resonated with me. By doing things consistently, you know, that 1%, that small 1% each day, whether that's, working out or, doing something. That 1% builds day after day after day after day. And soon over time, it builds and forms. And I think that was something that I took away from that. But I think generally, the people that I've had on my show, and some of the podcasts their podcasts I've listened to, like Sally Hers on Tourist Told, her podcast, really deep and meaningful. And I'd say as well, just, consuming good content like Gary Vee and being inspired through that and being inspired for what people are doing. And then in books as well, I've got lots of different books. I read Gary Vee's Crush It,
That
and
one's really
I read Manual for Living, which is by Epictetus,
good.
who
Okay.
was a philosopher back during the Roman times.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'll definitely have to check out some of those podcasts.
Yeah.
And it's, like you said, having that inspiration in your life, it motivates you and it keeps you sharing new content and going through that compound effects of having that 1%, which is incredibly key. If you guys haven't watched any of Gary Vaynerchuk's stuff, please go do it. It may actually motivate you to just dive into whatever you're trying to decide whether or not to do. Adam, where can we find more about you? What's your social handles, podcast?
Yeah, of course. You can find all my content in my bio on it's called Flow Page. You press that, all my content's there. But you can find my podcast on all the kind of streaming networks at the Positivity Podcast, and it looks like this with a logo. And LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn quite a lot. Instagram at Positivity94. Facebook, the Positivity Podcast, and also YouTube, the Positivity Podcast as well. And Twitter, Adam Parr with an L on the end.
Okay, wonderful. Well, you guys have heard it from Adam. Go follow him at all of his social media handles. Listen to the podcast. Put it on while you're on the drive to work this morning. You will be motivated. You'll learn something new. I guarantee it. Adam, thank you so much for taking the time to join me for coffee today.
No, you're welcome.
It's been wonderful. I hope you have a great day. There's lots of great things coming your way. And I just want to tell everybody who's listening to this, have an amazing day. It's going to be great. And thank you for tuning in to Coffee with Bobbi. See you later.
See you later. It's a pleasure to have you on. A pleasure being on.
Okay. Bye, Adam.
Take care.